All right. I think we will get ourselves going again. There are a variety of ways that we handle fear. Sometimes we fight against it, just straight up. Sometimes we ignore it. Sometimes we laugh at our fears. That's not all bad. To be able to smile and find a bit of humor here and there, to laugh at ourselves. Bob Newhart, of course, is famous for one of his comedy sketches called Stop It. We showed that some years ago at one of these biblical counseling seminars, just as a moment of humor, and it's well worth watching. I'm not going to show it again today, but if you'd like to find it, it's on YouTube. Bob Newhart, Stop It. It's funny. Now, the Brits, British humor, is a little different from U.S. humor. So I want to follow Bob Newhart with another sketch, and this is admittedly taking a risk that in some way you might think that we're finding humor in fear, maybe yours, but I doubt if any of your fears will be represented in this little sketch. This is a sketch of a therapy session. I think it's going to start right away as soon as I move the slide, so I want you to get the whole thing. This is a therapy session, and various people with different phobias. So enter in, and feel free to find humor in this. There you go. Fortunately, I suspect most of us don't struggle with those things. If so, sorry. Oh, dear. Yeah, embedded humor. Oh, dear. The manna principle and the fear of God. There are certain stories in the Bible that, as they are presented and then followed up on the pages of Scripture, really become a paradigm. They become a classic event toward which many other parts of the Bible seem to point. It's true in the Old Testament of Exodus, the Exodus. You've heard me say in preaching, there are two major redemptive events in the Bible. The first pointing to the second. The Exodus, which is a paradigm for salvation in Christ. That's the first big redemption event. It's repeated all the way through the Bible. It references Old Testament, God redeeming us from the place of slavery. And then Christ, and so many overlap. The Passover lamb providing redemption, Christ in his redemption. And similarly, I want to suggest to us today that the manna principle is likewise a paradigm for God's dealings with us. And I so appreciate the presentation of this in the book and would urge you to make yourself very familiar with this. I believe this principle, the manna principle. I believe that this is a wonderful picture at how God deals with us. And so I'm going to ask you, if you have a Bible handy, to go with me to Exodus 16. And I'm going to read the entire 36 verses, the whole thing, okay? Because, again, I want to embed it in our minds, that we would see analogies, and then I want to tell you and show you why I see it as a classic event, which much of Scripture points to. I believe it's a text that Jesus makes veiled references to. I think it was a seminal event in the life of the people of Israel. People saw it and they thought about this, and it became a reference point for God's dealings with his people. And so I want us to have it. I want you to have this in your mind, because it deals with us in our fears. It helps us in our fears. So Exodus 16, then, the entire chapter, as I read that, as we hear God's word, then the journey, of course, contextually, they've just come out of Egypt, just been through the Red Sea. Chapter 15 is the Song of Moses. God has delivered marvelously. The plagues of Egypt are right in the rearview mirror, just happened. And God has delivered again and again and again. They've seen the mighty hand of God, and its contrast is made more powerful because you come right out of this wonderful event. The end of chapter 15, complaining begins right on the heels of God's great deliverance. And so then, chapter 16. They set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month. You see this? The 15th day of the second month after they departed from the land of Egypt. I think the time signature is there on purpose. Not even 60 days. The whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness, and the people of Israel said to them, "Would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and we ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." Stop. God may be delivering us, but this is really uncomfortable. Isn't that interesting? I love the fact that we're being redeemed. I just thought I'd have more creature comforts. I mean, come on. Is it supposed to be this hard? Wow. The Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I'm about to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily." So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, "At evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against the Lord. For what are we that you grumble against us?" In other words, you're not just grumbling against the leaders who are clearly leading you poorly into the desert. No, your grumbling is against the Lord, who you thought would provide better. Moses said, when the Lord gives you in the evening meat to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, because the Lord has heard your grumblings that you grumble against him, what are we? Leaders, that is. Your grumbling is not against us, but against the Lord. Moses said to Aaron, "Say to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling." Man, he keeps talking about that. As soon as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in a cloud. The Lord said to Moses, "I have heard the grumbling of the people of Israel." Do you think God heard it? I think. "Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I'm the Lord your God." In the evening, quail came up and covered the camp, and in the morning, dew fell around the camp. And when the dew had gone up, there was on the face of the wilderness a fine flake-like thing, fine as frost on the ground. Isn't that interesting? It's not like Wonder Bread. It's this. There it is. When the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" Well, that's manna. If you want to know, the word manna means, what is it? What is it? That's what they called it. What is it? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It's the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather of it, each one of you as much as he can eat. You shall each take an omer," that's a measure, about a quart, "according to the number of the persons that each of you has in his tent." Okay? The people of Israel did so. They gathered, some more, some less. And when they measured it with an omer, whoever gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. Each of them gathered as much as he could eat. And Moses said to them, "Let none of you leave any of it over till the morning." Now, why would God do that? That's a question to ask as you read the text. Why would God do this? But they didn't listen to Moses, and some left part of it till morning, and it bred worms and stank. You can't save today's provision for tomorrow. Moses was angry with them. Apparently it stank badly. Morning by morning they gathered it, each as much as he could. But when the sun grew hot, it melted. So you got to go first thing in the morning, get provision for the day, or it's going away, friend. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers each. And when all the leaders of the congregation told Moses, he said to them, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Make it boil what you'll boil. All that's left over, lay aside to be kept till the morning." So they laid it aside till the morning as Moses commanded them, and it didn't stink, and there were no worms in it. Isn't that interesting? Just on Sabbath. Wow. Moses said, "Eat it today, tomorrow's Sabbath to the Lord. Today you'll not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it. On the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, there'll be none. And on the seventh day, some of the people went out to gather." Isn't that great? But they found none. Well, no kidding. And the Lord said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the sixth day, he gives you bread for 2 days. Remain each of you in his place. Let no one go out of his place on the seventh day." So the people rested on the seventh day. Now, the house of Israel called its name manna. What is it? It was like a coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Girl Scout cookies. It's the shortbreads. That's the parenthesis for me. Wow, that's great. Milk and those... Okay. Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Keep an omer of it. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, so that they may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness." So in other words, make this a point for years to come. Remember this moment. Mark it. "So that you may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar, put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations." And the Lord commanded Moses, and Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept. The people of Israel ate the manna 40 years till they came to a habitable land. They ate the manna till they came to the border of the land of Canaan. An omer is a 10th part of an ephah. Okay, yeah, roughly a quart-ish or so. Okay, there it is. Now, this shows up throughout the wilderness wanderings. There are stories of manna and so on. What an interesting story. What is this all about? Why the detail? Why 6 days and then a break? And why consequences if you don't? And man, every day, it's provision. This doesn't sound remarkable. This isn't a buffet, is it? It's manna. Is it amazing? Well, you can boil it and bake it and probably stir fry it. I don't know. That's kind of it. Amazing? Sure. Kind of the same every day? Is the same every day good or bad? It depends on how hungry you are, doesn't it? Isn't that true? It depends on how desperate you are for sustenance. Novelty is a wonderful thing if you have all your needs met. But if you're hungry, truly hungry, what is it? Shut up and eat it. It's God's provision for the day. Will you say, "Thank you"? That's a question, isn't it? Now, it shows up as if we were to drill down into the wilderness wanderings. Where's the garlic? Where's the other stuff? All there is this manna. All there is God's provision. And it's not enough. That's what they ended up thinking about. Your provision isn't enough. And come on, I want a buffet. I want more variety. Now, Ed Welch in his book interacts with a lot of this, Lessons from Manna. Here are some that he calls out specifically. God hears, God delivers, God is near, God tests. Indeed, he does. It becomes a test. And I want to think about 2 of these. I've worded them a little different. Again, these are reflected in the book on the manna principle that Welch presents. Here are things we think about. Question: What do you think about this? Will God truly give me what I need for today? Do you believe that? Theologically, your Sunday school answer is, well, of course. On a practical level, daily, in how you interact with God, do you believe this? Come on. Do you believe that God will give you what you truly need for today? I don't just mean food. And if you too cavalierly say, oh, sure, I believe that, I will not believe you. This is the struggle of our hearts. This is where you live. It is where I live. Don't even start telling me you've got this one licked. No, you don't. If so, you're either being dishonest with yourself or you're giving yourself a little more credit. Come on here. Will God truly give me what I need for today? Because I tend to think that I need a little bit more or something different. I do. I need greater assurance. I need greater supply. I need better health. Just a little bit. I don't mean a lot. I just mean a little bit more. Come on. A little bit more. A little larger. A little newer. A little nicer. That's what I think. And probably so do you. Will God give me what I need for today? And what if he withholds something that I think I need? Then what? These are the things of fear. I fear, what if God doesn't give me what I need? What will I do? I think I need God's protection for everybody I know and love. I think I need that. And what if he doesn't? Then what? Will God give me what I need for today? This is very, very practical. It's as simple as those of you who, like me, sometimes struggle to sleep well because my mind just keeps rolling. There are, excuse me, it's the danger of talking all the time. There are a few Saturday nights that I sleep well. It is it's a quirk of nature if I ever show up Sunday morning and I'm rested. I just can't sleep well. Saturday night, I wake up all night long. I'm rehearsing where we're going the next day and then get up at 5:30 to be here ready to go at 7. The church is at 8, but I want to be here at 7. So I know it's Saturday, it's just a routine. So how much sleep do you need to function well? Well, more. More and better. But to tell myself again in those hours of the night when you stare at the ceiling and say, oh, come on, stop it. To say, okay, manna. Will he give me the sleep he knows I need? And if I don't sleep much, will he give me grace tomorrow? You can equate for this moment manna with what I need, okay? Will he give me what I need tomorrow to walk in his grace? Answer, yes. So I can rest. I don't mean sleep necessarily. If I don't sleep, my soul can rest, knowing his provision. If you have young children, I mean, come on, when do you ever really sleep well? Well, how often are your nights interrupted? It depends on your kids. Some of your kids pass out at 8 o'clock and you don't hear from them for 12 hours. That's weird. Most other parents don't have that luxury. Somebody wakes up crying or wet or something, scared, it doesn't matter. Something in the middle of the night, it just is, and you're awake. You're awake. And you say, Lord, here I am again. Coming again. Lord, give me what I need for this night. Give me what I need for tomorrow to live in obedience to you, even though I may be tired and think I don't have what it takes. Lord, give me the manna that I need. Sorry. That's one of my fears. That Sunday morning I will forget to turn off my phone and one of you will call me and find out. It buzzes in the pulpit. That's bad. Will God truly give me what I need for today? And this is a matter of accepting from the hand of God. This is a matter of prayer. This is a matter of trusting the God who sent manna. You need to practice this. You do. This is a matter of dealing with fear, combating fear. It's learning the manna principle and saying every morning. Now, think through the details of the text. Every morning, you go out with your empty bucket. Why do you think God had it rot overnight? I mean, come on. Can't you just get one, enough for 3 days and go again? No, I think it's a manna principle that says, no, every morning you are broke. Every morning you need a fresh supply of his grace. Every morning you do. So every morning show up with your empty bucket and say, Lord, here it is. Here I am, empty hands. Give me what I need for today. Because God delights in us coming to him every single day with empty hands. He could have made manna last for a week, right? Here's enough. What would happen if he did? I know you'd sleep in. That's not the point. No, is it that you would then say, I have what I need for the next week. And for that week, I will be less aware of my need for God. So every day in those days with manna, he made sure his people knew, no, every single day you need me. Can I just reinforce that with no food? Every day you need me. And I'm going to make sure you know it. Now, was this harsh of God? Go back to our conversation this morning, Psalm 130. Was it harsh? No. Their need daily was a gift from God so they would turn to his provision. Do you see the beauty of this? God made sure that every morning they would wake up hungry and know that they needed him. Bread in the morning, meat at night. But wait, what if, here's our fears, what if God doesn't supply today? Okay, what's the answer to that? Well, you're hungry. I mean, if God decided that morning, no bread this morning, well, you'd be hungry. Would you die? No, probably not. You might be hungry. Is hunger a crisis for a meal? No, this is one of the principles of fasting in the Bible. That's a whole nother topic, to learn that if I'm hungry or if I have a need, a physical need, a bodily desire, guess what? If it's not fulfilled, you're probably not going to die today. We live in a day where if there's a hunger or an appetite or a longing, you better hurry up and fill it. Oh my goodness sakes. It would be terrible for you to have an unmet need. Wouldn't it be awful? Oh no. Well, no. Paul would say, 1 Corinthians 9, yes, I buffet my body and I make it my slave, lest perhaps I would be disqualified. No, my bodily desires don't run me. Oh no, I run them. I control them. They do not control me, whether it's food or you name it. We, of course, live in a day that says you have a bodily desire. I mean, who can blame you for fulfilling it? Well, the God who gave manna every day says, no, I will give you manna. I will meet your need. You may think you need greater. You may think you need additional. You may think you need more. But no, will I trust him? Hey, that's the Sabbath. So Ed Welch there, his little quote that I have in front of you, Sabbath was a big deal. It was a test, a weekly tutorial for anxious people, for worried people. What if God doesn't provide? What if he doesn't? What if he doesn't? Well, yes, indeed he will, but what if he doesn't? You might say, well, come on, people. He's been doing it every day. It went on for 40 years. He's been meeting your needs for how many years? Why don't you trust him again? Let me ask you, why don't you? Why don't you trust him more? Hasn't he been meeting your needs for how many years have you been alive? Hasn't he been guarding and taking care of you for this many years? Why would he suddenly stop now and say, oh, forgot you today. Rats, I'm sorry, off the radar. Why would he quit now being faithful? No, the manna principle is a big deal. Sabbath, I'm going to give you a gift. Don't go out and gather manna today. I'm giving you a gift of rest. Why won't you take it? Why won't you rest in me? Why won't you take a day and just be before me? Why must you get your little bucket and run out into the field again? I gave you a gift. Rest in me, please. Would you? Trust me? Instead, we rush out to the field and say, yeah, but he may not provide tomorrow. I'd better provide for me. I better take care of this. Will I trust him? And so Welch calls it a weekly tutorial for anxious people. Will I believe that God will be good tomorrow? Am I willing to rest in him? The manna principle. I think about this a lot. I talk to some of you about this. It relates to fears about tomorrow. It relates to worry. Do you believe that God has been good in the past? Do you believe he'll be good tomorrow? Do you? Do you believe he'll care for your kids tomorrow? Do you? We think about this depending on the ages of our kids, but it plays differently. Sometimes when they're younger, we begin the process of wishing we could protect them from certain things, don't we? Is that a good thing? Always? Oh, we want to protect them from getting hit by a bus. I know that. Do we want to protect them from falling down every time? Do you? Do you want to protect them from having to defend themselves ever? Do you want to protect them from having to face fear? Do you want to protect them from physical pain? First of all, on all of those things, good luck, because you can't. Do you want to protect them from struggle, fighting against sin? Bad choices? Oh. Well, part of us wants to, but we can't. We can prepare them. We can do all we can to point them to trust Christ, to trust him. But we can't always take the bullet. And so we say, oh God, I trust you with my children, however old they are. I trust you with them. Isn't it interesting? I mentioned that I think manna is a fitting paradigm, really, for God's provision for us. I realize this isn't unleavened bread, but that sure looks good. So I went with that one. If you use Google Images to search pictures of bread, I don't know, some of them don't look great. But man, I looked at that and thought, wow, artisan bread, wow. Think about bread in Scripture. Over 300 times the term bread is used. And you could make a long list of the examples. Old Testament, New Testament, manna, of course, tabernacle bread, the showbread in the tabernacle, right? There was a bread table. There was a bread table. There was in the Old Testament tabernacle, there were laver, a place to wash and sacrifice out there. And then there was a lampstand, and there was a table with bread. Isn't that interesting? And they traded it out. Interesting. It meant something. Unleavened bread at Passover. Elijah, God commanded the birds to feed him. Bread. And you can go through a lot more. Dozens and dozens of examples where bread shows up in the narrative. New Testament, give us this day our... Is it about food? Is that the point? I don't think it is. I think that the term, give us this day our daily bread, speaks of all that I believe that I need, all that God knows that I need. God, give me today what I need for today. I think it's manna. It's not saying I need lunch. That's too cursory of a reading. Oh God, give me today what I need for today. In your grace, withhold from me what you plan to give me tomorrow, and I don't know about it yet, but give me trust. Bethlehem, I referenced this in a sermon. How interesting that Jesus, the bread from heaven, would be born in Beit Lechem, the house of bread. Beit, house, Lechem, bread. Why would God do that? Why would he do that if it wasn't for teaching us something? The bread from heaven, born in a little town whose name means the house of bread. Wow, that's fun. Jesus, John 6. I'm the bread, Jesus said. I'm the bread that came down from heaven. Even as your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness and they died, so here I am. Eat my... People say, eat your flesh. Wow, that's creepy and awful. And they left. John 6. They left. A whole bunch of people. This guy's, wow. He meant something else though, didn't he? He was talking about becoming part of him and him becoming part of us. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood. Wow, Jesus. Hard sayings, it's called. Hard sayings of Jesus. People left. Feeding the crowds, 4,000, 5,000. How much was left? More than enough. That's the answer. There was more than enough. Everyone was fed. God's provision of fish and bread, not glamorous. It wasn't a buffet. I think that's our problem, is we've been to too many buffets. And we think, man, if you've ever shopped in a grocery store in like most of the rest of the world, how many types of bread? Well, most of the rest of the world does white or wheat. What? You want more? Well, you go here and it's like with nuts, no nuts, organic, and I don't know how many, but a lot. Thin ones, thicker sliced, thin sliced. Oh my goodness. We have to have our options. Wheat and white, that's not nearly enough choices. But I believe in it all. Communion, of course, this is my body broken for you. Take the bread, unleavened bread, breaks it. It speaks of daily need and daily sufficiency. He's enough. He's enough. He's enough. I believe that the manna story from Exodus is a paradigm for how God cares for us and answers our fears. He gives me today what I need. He withholds from me things that he knows I don't need. He calls me to rest in him even when I don't have in my hands all that I think I need. Because tomorrow I come with open hands and he will meet me there. And he will be to me tomorrow what I need. Is this easy for you to believe? Do you find this easy? Because I don't either. I don't either. I live here in this daily struggle, just like you. God, help me to believe that your provision for today is enough. And help me to say thank you when I don't see how tomorrow will play out. Keep me from a dissatisfied heart. Keep me from fearing that you will not be good again. The manna principle, because the next morning he shows up again with his provision. Now, I was cruising through the rest of Welch's book. Again, I'm not going chapter by chapter through it all. We would be here a long time, and that's not my intent for this weekend. I call these manna quotes not because Welch attaches them to his chapter on manna, but because I see them as symptomatic, emblematic of what he's talking about, so I gave you the footnotes or the page notes here. Worries attach themselves to things we value. Yes, we've seen that. What I value, I worry about. Fear and worry are not easily conquered. Really? Yes, I knew that. I knew that one. Thank you for saying it, Mr. Welch. I find great comfort in this third. Worry and fear are always looking ahead. When the thing we dread is upon us, we usually do well. Have you ever found that? Most of us have. That in the moment, when something happens and goes wrong or goes sideways or there's a struggle, we do handle it. We didn't sleep well. We showed up the next day, we made it. We did. We made it. God gave his grace. Most of the things we worry about in the night don't happen. And even then, when something does, because God is the manna-giving God, he gives grace for that event when we need it. And we do okay. So it comes down to, listen, please get this. It comes down to whether or not we believe that God will give us what we need for the crisis at hand. And by the way, he always gives it at that moment. I say this to people, oh man, you may have this conversation with me, or I may have this conversation with you. But sometimes when people are critically ill and death is imminent, we talk about dying. And we talk about this. Because people often say, I'm afraid of dying. Never done that before. Wonder what that's going to be like. Will it hurt? I had this conversation with Miss Hayes, New Year's Day. She was on hospice, and all physical indicators were congestive heart failure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh my goodness, her body was preparing for death, clearly. She knew it. So we talked about death and dying. I've told her family all this. They are not bothered by my sharing it. We talked about this. She asked, what do you think it will be like to die? I asked, are you afraid of dying? How do you feel about that? But I said to her what I truly, truly believe, that at that moment, whether it's death or sickness, God will give you in that moment what you need for that. So until the moment that you're dying, he will not give you what some have called dying grace, because you don't need it yet. But when you come to die, he will give you what you need by faith to die well. But he will not give that to you until the moment you need it. It's Corrie ten Boom and the ticket to get on the train. When do you need the ticket? Not till you're about to board the train. And just as her good father kept that ticket and gave it to her just at the right time, so our Heavenly Father gives us what we need at the moment we need it, not before. Could I handle something terrible happening to someone I love? Oh Lord, not my children. No. Well, the answer is God will give you the grace you need when you need it, not before. It's the manna principle warmed up. Do you believe it? Because this is how God acts. It's how he treats his people. That's why I see this chapter in Exodus as such a paradigm. It's what he does so that we come to him with open hands and say, I need thee. Oh, I need thee. How often? Come on. Every hour I need thee. Indeed. Yes, you're right. Every hour I come. Not just every morning. Lord, here I am again. My bucket is empty. Give me what I need for this moment. So I say to you here on this third bullet point, yes, when the thing we dread is upon us, we usually do well. Why? Why is that true? Because the God who gives manna gives it again at the moment of need. Yes, I believe it. Anticipation is the killer. You're right. It's because I fear that he won't be good to me at that moment. Knowing there's grace for tomorrow. Grace, parenthesis, manna. I just use those as interchangeable. There's manna for tomorrow. Yes, there's grace for tomorrow. Ed Welch says, has made the most noticeable difference in my own anxieties and fears. There's grace for this. There's grace. There's grace. Indeed, there is. So I want to suggest here then a manna prayer. I think this is a very abbreviated version. You could say it much longer. Gracious Father, give me what I need for today. Give me the manna. Give me your grace for today. Help me to see that what you provide is enough. And in my need, give me Jesus, who indeed is more than enough. Yeah. So when you rise in the morning, do you have a fearful day ahead? This would be a prayer to pray. God, give me what I need today. Give me what I need today. Courage, ability, strength, trust, humility. What is it I need today? Give me what I need today. And help me to see that what you've provided is enough. Even if today is a day of fear and difficulty and pain, God, give me what I need to face it and walk with you in it. And give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Now, I want to include here then for the next couple frames, and we'll head to another time of conversation, because I'd like you to think about this together. Community, as we've chatted about, manna in the fear of God. Yes, fear is rarely conquered by sheer willpower alone. It's conquered when we recognize an even greater fear. Jerry Bridges, I forget the year on this in terms of its publication. This is a good book, The Joy of Fearing God. That interesting? Jerry Bridges, of course, now with the Lord. Gracious, humble man. Wow. Yeah. I tell you what, he had physical things that you wouldn't know, wrote all kinds of books, worked for the Navigators, never made much money, in a ministry position his whole life, a missionary salary, if I may say, faced the death of his first wife, had physical things that he dealt with all the time, every day. Reminders of weakness, reminders of need. I remember I had a class with him once some years ago, and he said, if you see me kind of leaning to one side, it's not because I'm doing it on purpose. It's there are things in my inner ear, and I have a very hard time just standing straight. So forgive me. Don't let it be distracting. But my whole world is always, at about a little bit of an angle. You guys are kind of crooked right now. So just deal with it. It's what I do, and I have to compensate when I drive and walk, and every day, always, things are a little bit off. And I look to the Lord and go, oh, Lord, give me that. Give me that. Fear of God. Manna in the fear of God. Fear is rarely conquered by just you looking in the mirror and saying, Bob Newhart, stop it. Just stop being afraid. Come on, just don't. There you go. Bob Newhart would say, well, there you go. That's it. Just stop it. No, fear is rarely conquered that way. What's the problem if you can't sleep? Just go to sleep. Yeah, you're one of those, aren't you? You're one of those people who it's very interesting to me how often it is that a person who can go to sleep in 2 minutes is often married to a person who takes 3 hours. Both drive the other nuts, right? The one person lies down and is going, boy, what happened today? And it's like, wow, stop it. I haven't finished unpacking. I haven't finished thinking about tomorrow. It doesn't matter. You're snoring. It's wrong. People rises in the morning going, isn't it a great day? And shut up. Yeah, these people, I digress. These people are often married to each other. Manna in the fear of God. When you fear the Lord, Ed Welch would say, there's not much else to fear. Isn't that good? What does it mean to fear God? Well, here are a few. A parent who's afraid of drowning will typically overcome that fear to rescue a child in trouble. How come? Did they stop and say, well, I'm not afraid of drowning anymore? No, their fear of drowning was overwhelmed by a greater fear. And so they did it. Often it's that way. A greater fear overcomes the first. Joseph feared God more than Potiphar, or Potiphar's wife, who may have been more fearful than Potiphar, of course. Joseph feared God, so he ran, Genesis. Moses' parents feared God. In fact, that's spelled out in Hebrews 11. It specifically says that they feared God. They did not fear the king's edict. They feared God more than they feared government punishment. They feared God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, of course. The likelihood of a painful death? Sure. But they feared God more. Fight fear with fear, Ed Welch would say in chapter 17. What does he mean by that? Well, he means fear God more than that. Fear God more. He doesn't mean like God's going to hurt us. That isn't the point. But a couple of quotes here, if I may. One from Jesus in Luke 12. This is what he's talking about. I tell you, my friends, do not fear those who kill the body, and after that they have nothing more they can do. I warn you whom to fear. Fear him who, after he is killed, has authority to cast it into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him. Well, the worst thing that can happen, I guess, on this earth is they're going to kill you. After that, what? You get to go to heaven. Well, there's perspective for you, right? Fear. What do you fear the most? And then, of course, a quote from Bridges. A profound sense of awe. Wow, that's good. Fighting fear with fear. I mentioned this little book, Timothy Lane, Living Without Worry. One of the books I scurried through in the last few weeks here. I found it helpful. It's focused more on worry, not so much fear, secondarily about the term fear, although worry and fear, of course, I think are probably synonyms. But Living Without Worry, Tim Lane, who has given us, he was a co-writer in How People Change. If you recognize his name, I think that's the only other book I have up here with his name on it. But how to replace anxiety with peace. I found this a helpful treatment. If you're a person who worries a lot, you might pick this book up and think through with Tim Lane some of the issues here. I found it helpful in many respects. Worrying about your past, present, future, things that you can change, things you can't change. How do you take your anxiety to the Lord? And he says this, replacing fear with peace. If you're going to replace your worries with peace, you must begin to talk to God. Psalm 130, cry out to him. Cry out to him. This is the place to start. So I want to go here and give you a chance to talk together about the Manna principle. And I'm giving a little longer time here. We'll take a full 10 minutes here. The picture, anybody recognize this? Speaking of fear and not knowing the future. This is the rose window in, come on. Yeah, Notre Dame. Just a few months before it burned. There it is. I think it was the fall of 2018, wasn't it? This was May 2018. Striking, beautiful, within months. Fire. Yeah, that interesting. So what I would love to have you talk about here are these things. So how have you seen God provide in a faith-building way, even when there was still a perceived lack? In other words, you thought you needed this. God provided something different, and it was okay. it really was okay because he gave grace, which was really what you needed. Sometimes what he provides isn't what you think you have to have. Or perhaps, how would you describe a healthy and biblical fear of God? What would an unhealthy, unbiblical fear of God look like? There are those things where people fear that God will be mean today, that he'll lack grace, be unforgiving, be angry at you for your fears. That'd be an unhealthy fear of God. I'd like you to talk about these things. And in about 10 minutes, I'll be back with you. And we're heading toward lunchtime. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I'd like you to interact with this in a robust way. So take 10 and let's talk about these things, all right? And it's yours.